something happen.
Few, if any of us, can understand. Extensive information gathering on every American. Human experiments with drugs and psychosurgery. Electronic surveillance. The era of the computer. Invasion of privacy. Growing government and corporate power over our lives. A people plagued by dehumanization, loneliness, and violence. Dramatic? Perhaps. But we are losing control of our technology and our lives.
And that led to the formation and development of the IRE, out of which came our second project, Koyaanisqatsi. We wrote a book, the organization, colleagues and myself, it came into the Sunday supplement as it went out to 125,000 people immediately, was sent to prisons all over the country because it had a lot about prisoner rights and stuff. It's just another way of getting information to the public in a manner whereby it's almost unavoidable. We tried to take this campaign nationally. It failed. As a result, we wanted to continue in a mediated form because it seemed very efficacious. And film became the next journey. I also met Ron Fricke during that time. He was the cinematographer and collaborator on the moving image stuff for television that was done, the PSAs. And I was amazed at his dedication, his artistry, his fanatical attention to detail, unquestionably a master of the highest form, and yet without all of the pollution of the industry. He was an original, an authentic guy out there lensing, a painter, a great sense of color, composition, a mechanical genius. But add to that the brilliance of an eye that's artistic and the sensibility of a very compassionate person who's super disciplined, and you have this monster cinematographer, director, he's also a director now, so he's an absolute godsend for this project. Ron Fricke is a legitimate American genius.
Very involved in climbing, I was very involved in skiing and mountaineering and so on. I observed the material world very closely, and I could see that the material world was like a growth of the vacuum structure, that the space-time manifold was emerging and producing very specific pattern structures in space that we called material world, but that it emerged from space itself. That space was extending itself and looking back at itself in this and consciously dynamically coupled, absolutely, as it carries information along a feedback loop of information structure that define a very specific field geometry. And I went about to find what is that field geometry, and that took me 20 years. And I thought, and throughout this exploration, I realized that the application of that understanding could have huge impact on society. That is, if we could find that fundamental pattern of creation, if we could find how the vacuum extends itself and feed back on itself, then we would have the key to the fundamental structure of space. And with that key, we would have access to literally an infinite amount of energy and curvature of space-time, which equates gravitational control and so on.
And indeed, the infinity of waves outside the plates is bigger than the infinity of waves inside the plates. And so there's a pressure produced by all these guys outside the plates that's bigger than the pressure of the waves inside the plates. And so that's the pressure that pushes the plates together. It's a quantum pressure due to the difference between one infinity and another infinity.
Heavy water. One of the electrodes in the cell was made of the precious metal palladium. The electrical current separated out individual deuterium atoms and forced them to pack tightly into the palladium cathode. What happened next remains a mystery. Whether it was nuclear fusion or something else, the heat energy that came out of that little jar was thousands to millions of times what could be explained by any known chemical reaction.
In conclusion, we have no evidence in our laboratory with any of our samples for fusion.
I'm very sorry that Professor Lewis has no information on the tritium levels. That is available, and is available in the correction list to the paper.
We know the foreground, we don't know the background. I would like to
The
specifically...
background, I beg your pardon, the background is available in the corrections to the paper.
That might be. I would like to specifically
Well,
hear
then
whether or not
please
helium...
Don't
Could we go
laugh-
on? Could we
don't
go on to
laugh
the
it
question?
off.
Bringing my work to the physics community some 15 to 20 years ago, the tendency was to think we've got the universe pretty well all figured, and all we need is a few little things to work out, and then we have it. And so there was a lot of arrogance in the way physicists were interacting with new ideas and so on. And so it was extremely difficult